We've gone through a social conditioning of different movements like Me Too. And I think it's made men afraid to be what they naturally are. There's not going to be any good men if you shame them into not being men. You know, the women's empowerment movement has been hijacked by what I would call, toxic feminist attitude. I think the addiction to video games, I think the addiction to porn is a big deal. We would have a Playboy that was stashed in like a community location in the neighborhood that everybody knew where it was. A big driver for men is attracting women. We didn't have that ambition pulled from us by unlimited access to pornography. This is all part of the play, making our country easier to control. When you remove the motivation for men to become great, it becomes very easy for men that aren't great to rule over them. It's the intent to culturally disable society from functioning, getting us to subscribe to the machine.
As I said, the real question today is, what car did you drive to work? It was an F-150, right?
It was an F-350.
F-350. How dare us?
I bought that in 2019 as a 4,700 mile gas F-350, and we converted it into a 7.3 diesel with a manual, which was like...
Sorry, manual?
Yeah, the truck of my childhood. So got to take my dad for a ride in it today. It's pretty cool.
So if you would have had that truck in your childhood, it would have led you to being a Formula One driver then.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I missed my calling because I didn't
That was so funny, the message. I've seen that before, that clip where it's what my parents should have done as a child that would have actually led me to being a race car driver. So is it fascination with driving, or is it the fascination with cars?
It's both. But I like driving. That's like driving a dump truck. So it's not a good example of it. But I do like to drive, amateur level, just try to, I like the cars. I just like everything about it. I've been on a track a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We have a race team here at First Form, so I've got a good in to get some track time.
What kind of car is it?
We run GTD class in IMSA, and then also in WEC. We run the RSR Porsche.
Wow, that's very cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we won Daytona, and then we won Sebring. I have the Sebring car here at HQ, and then Ryan, who's my partner in the team, he has the Daytona car at his garage. So
that's fun. You need to drive that for sure.
Yeah. Well, the problem is
you don't fit in the seat?
Yes. So he's 180 and I'm 260, so it doesn't necessarily work.
The camera is framing us in similar sort of like size, but race car drivers are generally, 5'9", maybe.
Yeah.
And quite thin.
Yeah.
It's a typical shape for a race car driver.
I was looking that up the other night. I was watching the Netflix Formula One series, and they were talking about Verstappen, and I looked up his size because like on TV, he looks like he'd be like 6'4". And I looked up the size. He was like 5'10", 5'11", like 170. And I was like,
and he's kind of like one of the larger ones.
That's what they said. The heaviest guy is 173. So that was interesting. So I have no chance. It is what it is. But,
I'm a 5'1", 105. So
you fit perfect.
Yeah, that's actually a little on the small side. But anyway, love listening to people that are just fucking direct and just tell it like it is and say the thing. And where did that come from? Because it's like a pretty rare quality, because you also have your give a shit meter is pegged at 0.
I feel like authenticity is the most important trait when it comes, especially to success. I'm an entrepreneur. That's my day job. And it's hard to make decisions and do things at scale or do anything. This was no different than when I started. Listening to what other people think or caring about what they think. The older I've gotten, I feel like I've, that like 70-year-old, I've lived my whole life and I've seen everything and I don't give a fuck what you think about it. Mm-hmm. I think I've accumulated that just in a shorter amount of time, just from being in entrepreneurship and, to do things that are abnormal. You've got to learn to tune out what people think about it. And I think that just sort of, I've always presented myself that way because it's authentic, and it seems to, some people like it, some people don't like it, but like at the end of the day, I feel good at night when I go to bed that I've said what I needed to say. I'm not holding anything back. Mm-hmm. So I think it just came from being an entrepreneur, man. You just can't you can't make the right decisions if it doesn't come from an authentic place. And not everybody's going to agree with it. Not everybody's going to like it. And, so I don't put any energy into really considering how people see or view or, perceive me to be. I know who I am. And if I've got an opinion, I don't mind sharing it. I mean, that's the point of the internet, right? I guess that's where my dad's kind of like that too, don't you think? Like he just said what the fuck he wants. Yeah.
Who does?
My dad, I was asking
Oh
Chris.
yeah.
My dad's
Oh, is
still
your
here.
dad there?
Yeah, he works here in the office, so all the guys know him too. So he's kind of the same. He's toned it down a little bit as he's gotten older.
There it is. My dad's got a whole bunch of he'll say anything in him as well. Like it's just he's just very blunt, but it's like, quite it's not really like mean blunt. It's just like this is the way it is. And there's a level of humor to it, but it's also like, yeah, that's just the way it is. And it mostly it doesn't rub people the wrong way. It's I'm sure every now and again, but like I said, they're pussies anyway. Get them out of here, right?
I think so too, dude. And I think real, how I describe people like that is like they're a realist. Like it is what it is, man. Like we can
So my dad would
complain.
call himself a
Yeah,
realist.
that's the truth. And we can wish, we can want, we can complain, we can bitch, but at the end of the day, there's a way things are, and it's just quicker to address those right away as opposed to doing the dance that everybody wants you to do. I don't do small talk. I'm usually not invited to the dinners because I'll end up like, we'll end up in a discussion that not everybody appreciates. But you know what? I'm happy about where I'm at. I like it, and I'm glad I'm like that way. And I think we're seeing more of that. We're starting to see people come out of their shells and speak truth to what they believe. And I think that's what this country is ultimately about. It's a melding of different opinions and ideas. And when we get people afraid to express those opinions or ideas, we end up with people making those decisions for us, which I think is the direction we've gone really since 2008, in my opinion. And I feel like it's really cool to see people getting their courage back to speak, what they believe to be true.
Well, do you think that this is also maybe where like, we had this really weird phase, I feel like, for a while, and maybe some of it was okay, but basically, I feel like men have had it hard for a little while. Like the past, 5, 7 years have been weird time for men, especially if you're like an adolescent age growing up, because there was an attack on sort of this patriarchy and toxic masculinity, and men need to be like this, and they need to show their feelings and blah blah blah, and they need to help out around home and do there's just like a whole like the way a man should be has been dismantled and tried to, but I don't know if it's been restructured in any way other than just tearing men down. And so I feel like, and I honestly feel like the election and Trump getting back into office has really like made the quick switch very abruptly. And I think it's needed because I don't know, what is your opinion, and what have you seen with the way that it's been in the last 5 to 7 years for men, and where's it going?
We've gone through a social conditioning of different movements that have been propagated through NGOs and different people like Soros and these people who put out these social narratives, like Me Too and all of these, the patriarchy and all this shit, and I think it's made men afraid to be what they naturally are. And they've been shamed into believing that if they want to go out and make money, that's a bad thing. If they want to go out and date women, that's a bad thing. If they want to go out and do this or that, that's a bad thing. And it's like, fuck, eventually you get to a point where it's like, what the fuck can we do? And I think that's where we got to in the last couple of years. And I think the younger generation is starting to realize they don't want to be one of these soy people who fucking wears a man bun 24 out for, dude, they all look the same. We all know what I'm talking about. They've realized like, dude, I do want to be a man. I do want to make money. I do want to provide. I do want to protect. I want to be capable. The unfortunate thing is we have a whole generation of men that have missed that for the last 10, 15 years. But I think they're coming around, man. And I think we're getting back to a point where women are starting to understand the value and the need for those types of men. Because, the common trait that we hear, or the common complaint that we hear, from women is there's no good men. Well, fuck, dude, there's not going to be any good men if you shame them into not being men.
Exactly.
Right. So we end up with a bunch of, truly like just supplicating pussies with no backbone and no, no moral standard to really stand on. They don't know what they're here to do. They don't know why they're valuable. And then we end up with them sitting in the basement playing video games and we wonder why. So I think these younger men are starting to realize that their natural urge that they have to become, in shape, to make money, to accomplish things, to do things, to lead and protect and contribute to their communities. I think that's really coming back in style, which I'm very thankful for. I think there's been a number of key contributors, whether people like them or don't like them, that have contributed to that. I think it's a great thing because the truth of the matter is we need a male-female dynamic. And that's not to say that one is less valuable than the other. Both are valuable in different ways. The women's empowerment movement has been hijacked by what I would call, toxic feminist attitude, and we see a lot of women, who realize, I know a lot of women who bought into it, who now realize that that's just not the way to think or be or act. So I think people are healing. I think people are coming together and starting to realize that, it's not I'm better than you or this. People are, better because of whatever gender they happen to be, the one of two genders, you know, and we're starting to realize,
I know it's a very hard question for some, but you have
to, we have to work together, not which is better,
Right.
And so I like what's going on right now. I think we're seeing the beginning of a new culture in this country that really represents, the traditional culture that maybe you and I both experienced when we were younger.
What do you think are some of the most dangerous things for men that would take away from becoming like a truly strong man with integrity, with confidence, with determination, with capabilities? What are the things you're seeing these days that would take a man away from that, becoming that kind of man?
Well, I think not being fit is one of them. I think you have to work to be fit. I think there's a lot of lessons that you learn from becoming fit.
Yeah.
And I think, this is our tool. This is our tool that we go out there and do whatever we're going to do. And the more fit and the more healthy we are mentally, the better we're going to do out there. So I think that's a good place to start for men. What's going to bring them, what they need to watch out for. I think the amount of time spent on social media and video games is a huge distraction. That's not something I had when I was younger. I poured myself into my business, and because I didn't have those things to distract me, I spent more time putting into the things that were going to bear fruit. But also when I was bored, which this is a big problem that nobody talks about, there's not much boredom anymore. So when I was bored, I used to think, how do I get here? How do I do this? What are we going to do here? But now there's really no boredom because people are constantly obsessed with this digital world that has been created around us. I think the addiction to, video games, I think the addiction to porn is a big deal. I think the overuse of, alcohol and drugs, but that's nothing new. That was around when we were coming up. My personal belief is the world was much better before social media and before the internet. And
we remember that kind of.
Yeah, we're the last.
We're on the edge. We're the last one. I think I posted
right.
a story the other day. It's like, it was something from Oppenheimer, and it was basically like a clip of like, him sort of like being really upset and concerned. And it was like, when you remember, you're the last generation to know what it was like before social media. I mean, I remember getting a cell phone. Like I was one of the first ones. And, that stuff didn't even, it was like beepers before that, which was totally unproductive because you still needed a phone.
Yeah.
But like,
dude, I had a beeper.
Totally. But yeah, I think that social media and porn, I don't know. I just have this really sad, like scary feeling that that's a really, really, really big problem.
Well, I think dude, I mean, that was something that, again, we didn't have growing up as men, right?
We had Playboy.
We would have a Playboy that was stashed in like a community location in the neighborhood that everybody knew where it was. Yeah, exactly, dude. It's all stuck together. I mean, but dude, you used to have to work to get that as a man, and now you don't. And so that removes a lot of ambition and drive because let's be real, man. When you're a younger man, the reason that you want to be successful is because you want to be attractive to women. Whether people want to admit it or not, a big driver for men is attracting women. And we didn't have that ambition pulled from us by unlimited access to pornography. And I think that's a big problem that we see with younger men, is that they're not as ambitious to go out and become a great product that will attract the kind of women that they would like to have.
Yeah.
Because they have unlimited access to this, and that urge is ultimately satisfied over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think it removes a lot of, I mean, look, dude, let's be real. People conquered civilizations for the approval of women, so that's the truth. So when you remove that ambition from men, I think we end up with, what we see today. A lot of men lack ambition totally. They're not healthy. They don't care about going out and meeting anybody. They're staying in their mom's basement until they're in their 30s. This is a big problem, because how many of those men were actually put here to create greatness that are now, it's being stolen from them? And ultimately, in my opinion, this is all part of the play. This is all part of, making our country easier to control, making the world easier to control. Because when you remove the motivation for men to become great, it becomes very easy for men that aren't great to rule over them. And I think that's what we're seeing globally right now.
There's thankfully some videos you can find out there about just like how powerful it can be for a man to be committed to a woman and have a partner, and the strength that they get, and when they trust her and they trust her intuition and lead her, that women are a multiplier. Like, you just give a woman a little bit of love, and like, you give her attention, and she will multiply anything that you have.
The right one, for sure.
One of the things about not finding good men is that, like, if you're not doing that for a woman, if you're not satisfying her and taking care of her and doing these kinds of things, she can go figure out how to go do it on her own. And I think porn is a big problem, because it also, like, that's not real. Like, sorry guys, there's nothing about it that's real, and you get hit in a new, different dopamine level and a different way of a arousal and an unrealistic like expectation level. And also, I think it might also feed into more fear-based place that men have been, where it's like, you're afraid to not perform, whether it's truly perform or whether it's even just do a good job, like actually be good at what you're doing. And this is a place where you can go, where you can alleviate that stress just a little bit, not only from a want standpoint, but then you don't have to worry about being good at it. Like, it's like one more way to cop out and just be like, whatever, like, who cares? And it just drains you. And the crazy thing is, it's like, that drains, the action itself is like depleting for a man.
Yeah.
But it's actually energizing for a woman. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. But I think that all flows together. I think we end up with, if we could figure out how to remove the ambition of men, we can, like, let's just play evil overlord for a second, right? We're running the world. If you could figure out how to remove the ambition of men by giving them unlimited access to food, entertainment, pornography, all of their social needs instantly, meaning I can click and talk to my friends on the internet all the time. I don't have to leave the house. And what ends up happening is we create these men who, in very blunt terms, are not physically capable of revolting, against corruption. So when I think of all of these social constructs, I don't think of them in just like what it means to their life. I'm thinking about what it means to the the global socio-political environment. And I think that these are all social weapons that have been designed to remove the ambition and the greatness of men in all regard, meaning their ability to make money, their ability to protect, their physical capabilities, their mental capabilities. Yeah. And if we create a society of fat, weak, stupid, dependent men, how could you not fucking conquer them? They're like, that'd be like a bunch of jelly rolls rolling out, dude, to fight. They can't do it. So, we end up with a situation that, we're in now, quite honestly.
I remember having a thought a while back about the way that this could attack women as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like with OnlyFans and things like that, and
Yeah.
how there's a huge attraction for women to go, and you even you see it promoted on social media, like, oh, this woman makes $1 million a month, this girl makes $50 million a year, this, the jokes about showing your feet for millions of dollars on OnlyFans and stuff. And it's like, well, this definitely has played into pornography with men to take away their life force, take away their ability to actually go conquer worlds. But then also from a female perspective, you're taking away all their confidence and letting them settle for anything, because ultimately you're completely selling out. You're selling your body. It is a low form of self-confidence. It's a no form. It's actually the opposite of self-confidence. You think that's what you have to do to make money. So now you've taken the men out of the picture, and now the women too.
Yes.
Like it's just like it's cultural, like annihilation.
That's for sure. That's exactly what it is. It's the intent to culturally disable society from functioning, and getting us to subscribe to the machine. Meaning, if we're fat, we're consuming their food and we're consuming their medication. If we're lazy, we're a perpetual customer for their streams. If we're sexually satisfied at home but don't go out, what ambitions do we have? And for women, like when they go on to OnlyFans and do these things, I know a lot of them will say, well, dude, I'm paying my bills. I'm making this. I can't make this anywhere else. But then 6 months, a year later, they go from $20 to $5 to $3, and they can't figure out why. Well, it's the reason why, dude, is because you just ruined your product by giving it away to everybody. And they're not understanding that the best product that they have is the secrecy of their private lives. You know what I mean? That being naked, people seeing your body.
It's like not having sex on the first date,
Yeah, dude. And so then we don't have a dynamic between men and women anymore. We just have men and we have women. And then let's get them to fight and argue over who's better. When in reality, everything great, and you touched on this a little bit, everything great comes out of that supportive relationship. When you have an ambitious, I try to teach this to my entrepreneur guys. You cannot do it at the highest level without a support system. You can't fucking do it. It's required. And maybe that looks like a number of productive, healthy relationships through your life, or maybe that looks like one person that has helped you build your entire life. But either way, if you don't have productive partners that push and support and help do, these big things, you can't get there. It's a two-person job. And so I don't see it as like, real talk, I don't know very many men. I know a lot of successful men, I know you do as well, who have built it all on their own. I know a lot of guys who are single once they built it. I know a lot of guys but while they were building, they had someone that was helping them. And we can look at some of the biggest names in history, and it's always the truth, because big success is a two-person job. And it's unfortunate, but I think that what we're connecting here and what we're talking about, men, women being over here, and then trying to get them to fight over who's more important. I mean, that's the ultimate handicap for a society to be conquered, in my opinion, and culturally, maybe physically.
Yeah. I mean, I've even wondered too, if because I remember hearing those numbers about like what someone would make, and I'm like, who's paying, and like how much are they, and like what? Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, even, I wonder if there's actually like a deep state like agenda to pump money into this, to draw more people in, to drain out their life force on a female or male perspective.
No, I believe that 100%. I mean,
look what Medicaid has been going to. It's going to the illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been going to Ukraine, and money in this country. It's been sent everywhere else but here.
And that USAID money, when you really look at what they were doing with it, one of the main things they were doing with it was funding independent media sources, which means influencers, podcasters, to promote this. I wouldn't even call liberal agenda. I would call it a communist agenda. I think most of us are naturally liberal at this point in time. Like, I really don't care what you do, bro. Like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. But now I'm starting to care more because I'm starting to realize the damage that it has created in our society. So it's definitely an interesting thing, but I see it completely as a social weapon. And we have to be smart enough to not play into those things the best that we can, because we're surrounded by it all the time. And it actually gets disheartening sometimes, because you look at the size of the problem and you're like, fuck, how do you fix this? But I think it is getting fixed. I think we're seeing a resurgence of Christianity, which, whether people want to practice that or not is not what I'm saying. But I think the great part about it is that it sets a standard for a certain moral standard that people try to operate at, right? It's not just a free for all. Like, let's do whatever we want. People are starting to recognize at a younger age, hey, this isn't good, man. It's not producing what I want out of my life. And so they look to Christianity as a set of values to try to, live towards. And I think that's a great thing for culture. I think that's going to really help bring us back to where we need to be. But I think we were this close, and I think we're still real close to becoming a communist country if things don't change. The way communist works is it's 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. So they push until there's resistance. Then they stop and they go to sleep for a while, and they wait for you to go to sleep, and then they come back. And we've seen this over the last 100 years that we've been dealing with these people.
I mean, what are the most dangerous agendas right now that are holding us back?
When I was growing up, it was a valued thing. It was something that was encouraged to go out and be successful. Now I feel like it's shamed. I feel like people, they don't encourage men to go out and be successful anymore. They haven't for a long time. And when we think about how they've sort of deconstructed the traditional American male role, which is, go out, be able to, build something of yourself, be capable, make some money, be able to protect, do all of these things. And they've done it through shame. That's toxic masculinity. Capitalism is greedy and it's evil. And we go on and on and on. When we think about the most dangerous initiative, I think it's built around the individual. And I think it's about removing personal responsibility for people's existence. Meaning, think about victim culture right now and protected classes. Everybody's got a story, and everybody, complains and bitches and moans, and we have people trying to pretend to be protected class. And so we live in the exact opposite of what a productive society should be culturally. Yeah. And when we think about like what that does, I mean, it just it makes us dependent on their system,
Well, I mean, Minnesota's looking at having Trump derangement syndrome actually be a real, like, diagnose. You can diagnose that for someone.
No way.
Yeah.
But all the shit they're about that's not mental disorders. Like a grown man chopping off his fucking dick. That's not a mental disorder. I mean, where I'm coming from.
I mean, any dude, like, that's cringy, right? Like, you don't even want to imagine it, right?
What I can't imagine is guys that do that, and then once this cultural shift is over and they get 10 years down the road, they're going to be like, what'd I do? I mean, dude, there's a lot of damage that's been created by these ridiculous narratives that's not recoverable for a lot of people. Yeah. And what's unfortunate about those situations is that people like you and me, we're fighting for them to not be victims. And then they end up being victims of these cultural, pushes.
What makes a strong person is the question in the end, because how do you really know who you are and know what you want and like go after something? I feel like, when I was a kid and I started racing go-karts, my dad put the fear of God in me about a few things to keep me on track, which were total lies, but it didn't matter. It worked. And like, it gave me a purpose, which gives me a reason to walk the line, to do good things, to work really hard. Like, you gotta get to what do we do to like create that culture, to create that acceptance in in having some level of drive and having going for something. Because I feel like, you got to having a goal when you're young and having some level of confidence and conviction about it is a massive driving force. I mean, that's what you did, right? You started a company when you were really young, didn't you?
19, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so you had a purpose. Like, how do we get that on track?
Well, I mean, this goes back into what they shame, right? They shame success. So, like, for example, I like to show my success, but the reason I show it is because there's a 20-year-old dude like me out there that's going to be like, fuck yeah, that's what I want,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
So,
I mean, you're like showing it is a very popular thing these days with like
yep. And
jets and cars and vacations and women. And maybe I don't agree with the women one. I know that y'all want women, but I'm a fan of loyalty,
yeah, but dude,
monogamy. But yeah,
you
I
have
mean,
to
this is
show
a
you have to
huge,
show people the end result,
yeah.
and you have to make them understand that they are capable of doing it, which can be done a number of different ways. Unfortunately, most parents don't teach their kids that. A lot of parents teach their kids that, their limits as parents are also going to be their kids' limits. When we think of like how do we get the culture back on track? The culture can only get on track is that if individuals realize that they are the culture. When we think about how do we get all of these people to realign their cultural values? It's one person at a time, and it's individuals saying, hey, you know what? The best way for me to contribute to the country getting back on course is by me becoming the antithesis of what they want us to be, right? They want us to be fat, so I have to be fit. They want us to be stupid, so I have to self-educate. They want us to be poor, so I have to be wealthy. They want us to treat people bad and hate people. We have to work to love people and bring people together. And basically, becoming that as an individual and dedicating yourself is the ultimate rebellion to the culture. And I have a saying that I use all the time, which is personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, because we think of rebellions and we think of like storming the Capitol or whatever, but that's a small little thing that really can win or lose. But here's a way that we can win that cannot be defeated by them, is if that all of the individuals decide that they all play a role in the cultural revolution and get back to being the best version of themselves that they can be truly, not this whiny bullshit that people say, oh, I'm trying as hard as I can. Motherfucker, you're not trying that hard. Like, we're talking about really, really, really dedicating your life to being the example for other people to follow. And when we take that home, our neighbors see that. And our neighbors going to, like if you go from being 350 pounds to being, 215 pounds and in great shape, your neighbor's going to say, hey, Chris, what the fuck you been doing, man? Tell me how to
Yeah.
do it. Right. And then it spreads organically from your house to your community, to your state, to your country. And, until we get people to realize that the only way we can flip the script on these people is by taking personal responsibility for ourselves and leading by example, regardless of what everybody else is doing. You know, that's the only way that we can do it. We don't have the ability, in my opinion, to, forcefully do it. But politics is downstream from culture. So if we got the culture to accept that as their mission, what the fuck are these politicians going to do about it? They can't stop it,
You're right.
and eventually the culture will demand a different sort of politician and will wash all these shitbags out, and flush them down the drain.
Right.
So that's the best solution that I've been able to come up with. But getting everybody to buy into it is that's quite the mission. So
Reminds me of, Jocko's like extreme ownership and, just like level of accountability that comes with, Goggins style of like, get your
yeah,
ass out of bed and do, there's that. I think for me in my life, I feel like accountability, which is like kind of an extension of ownership, essentially. Like that to me has even been what I am the most proud of, is to stop blaming other people, to stop wanting other people to fix problems for me. Is
yeah.
like I wish that they would sort of revamp school, because I don't think you're really taught the things you need to know in school. I think you're taught a bunch of bullshit about geometry and algebra, and I mean, okay, forming a paragraph was fine, nice. Like,
It's
we got Gronk for that and AI. We're past that now. But there's so many things in school that are just stupid. I don't need to know how to cut a frog open.
yeah. But
So
if you don't learn it, you get an F.
right, which is this
So what are
tiny
they?
box of learn this and be
So
good.
what are they actually doing in school then? What they're actually doing, and is they're not training people to be educated and think for themselves, or intelligent and think for themselves. They're actually training people to follow directions to get the cookie, right? I don't know how to dissect a frog. What the fuck am I needing to know this for? You better do it or you're going to get an F. That's the mentality of the school system. And dude, that doesn't inspire greatness, and it doesn't teach how to critically think at all. And if we think about like the career path, of let's say how it's supposed to go, you go to school, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job. And when we look at that, 16 years of schooling, what we're learning we're learning some basic things, right, that we need to know, but most of it is geared towards getting rewarded for following directions. And so then go out in the world and fall in line and shut the fuck up, or otherwise you're going to be punished. And that's what I see the school system as. I don't see it as education. I see it as training people to follow directions.
Yeah, a control.
I was a terrible student. I was terrible because I sat there in class just like you did, and I was like, what the fuck do I need this for? I don't need this. I'm going to go out and do this, and it was the same thing in college for me. I remember when I quit going to college, I dropped out. I took an entrepreneurship class at that time I was in business already. So I had my little vitamin store at that time, but I'm getting taught by this guy, and we got into like a little argument in front of the whole lecture hall. When we left, this is going to sound fucked up, but it's true. I followed him to his car, and I wanted to see what the fuck he drove. Yeah, and he drove some rusted out piece of shit. And I'm like, bro, this ain't for me, man. Like, I'm sitting here getting told that I'm wrong. I'm in the game, and I'm getting told I'm wrong by this dude who's never done fucking anything. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so I never went back. I just left.
It's like that guy that on Instagram that goes and approaches people with their nice cars and is like, "How'd you get this nice car?" And they have a story, right? They have a fantastic story. I was just watching this one about the guy who started Sun Life Organics. He's like, "I make smoothies." It's like, I made like 30
I saw that one.
It's like,
I saw that. I love that guy.
But you're like, wow, that is actually a very good indication of it. And, even to the point where you can see sometimes CEOs or business owners, they sometimes don't even want to drive their nice car to work because it will show the other employee, like it's kind of like makes the other employees feel bad. Yeah. But you're coming at it from another perspective where it's like, no. Have this as a goal. It's almost like it's almost like creating goals has been sort of abandoned by people. And the only thing that I've ever lived my life off of is setting a goal and achieving it. And I was listening to one of your shows and you were talking about always moving those goalposts. That's always what I've done. There's never enough. It's like when I started racing, I was like, oh man, if I can get a manufacturer to make me custom Nomex clothes that aren't way oversized, I've made it. I'm like, I freaking had that the first year I drove Indy cars. Like, okay, now what? So you have to move that. You have to move the goalpost. You should, or at least once you've achieved one or got close, you should already be like thinking of the next one.
For sure. And I mean, dude, I've been fortunate enough to be, the thing you said about the cars is that there's an interesting story behind that. So I wasn't always that way. In 2012 was the first year I started making what I would consider good money at the time. And I bought a Lamborghini LP 570 Superleggera. It was white. And it was my fucking dream car was a white Lamborghini. And I had that car for 2 years without anybody knowing I had it. I only drove it like I had the windows tinted. I only drove it at like places I didn't think I was going to see anybody. And then I went to this restaurant, and as I was walking out the restaurant, one of my main employees at the time was he's still actually, this is a great story because now he's worth tens of millions of dollars. He saw me walking out, and like the car was parked on the curb, and I was like, I couldn't fucking hide that it was my car. He's like, bro, is that your fucking Lamborghini? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. And so I had this guy who I looked up to as a business. I still felt weird about it because I'm like, fuck, now Kyle's going to go tell everybody, and I'm like, fucking, everybody's going to hate me. So I called up my buddy, and at the time, this guy was sort of like my mentor, and he had some nice cars, and he had a McLaren and some other shit. And he was like, I said, hey, Todd, I said, dude, do your employees ever get mad at you for driving your cars? Like, how do you deal with that? And we were walking, and I remember we were walking down a hallway, and he stopped me and he grabbed me and he looked at me and he goes, do you want any motherfuckers working for you that don't want that? And I'm like, no. And he's like, and he kept walking. And I'm like, that was when it changed. My whole mentality changed. I think everybody here now loves the shit. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's some haters, but I don't ever hear it. Do you hear it? Really? Real thought.
I was literally just thinking to myself, I'm like, I hide a lot of opulence in my life. Like I have a Lamborghini. I don't post that. I don't post that. I fly on a jet all the time. I mean, sometimes there'll be a picture of my dogs in it or something, but like, I don't really promote the fab lifestyle I live or the places I go or the people I meet
but you earned it, dude.
I did. And
that's a great story. Look at how many young women would look up and say, dude, look what she did. I could do that like that. And it's not like you're old. You know what I'm saying? So it's not
Thank you. Oh, can I hug you?
Well, you know what I'm saying though. Like we're still young enough to connect with younger people. It's inspiring, dude.
Well, actually, my fan base is about 75% male, so they'd probably love it anyway because they'd be motivated by it.
Fucking right, dude. They're gonna think it's cool as fuck.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should. I should. Thank you. That's inspiring. I mean, it's because that's truly, I think that's been my goal of my whole life is to inspire people.
This is the first time we've ever talked. We've spoke on Instagram a number of times, but I've watched you from afar. I mean, the one thing about your career is that it was very public. I mean, I didn't get to watch you do the karting and all that, but I have plenty of friends, my brother included, that play professional sports. People don't realize, like, dude, that shit starts when my brother played pro baseball. We played 120 games of baseball every single year from the time we were fucking 8 until we were 18. You know what I mean? People don't think like that. And then they think, oh man, you know, Danica's just a really good driver, but they don't think of all the hours and all the time and all, like, you didn't just pop into an Indy car and drive it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So like, dude, those are valuable lessons for people to see and understand. And, you know, I think you're an example for, you know, anybody, women or men, of, you know, here's the process. This is what you can do. And this is how it works. And I think that's a tremendously inspiring story.
Thank you. Well, that makes me think of one topic that I feel like you probably have some thoughts of, which I've heard you speak to a little bit, but this is the idea of balance in life. And I feel like there's sort of an understanding that, you know, like, find balance in your life. Well, like, I'm a little bit more of a fan of the macro balance than the micro balance. Like the micro, like, you'll actually never be in balance because at any one point in time, you're doing one or the other, or one thing or that. You know, you're not dealing with your personal life, you're dealing with business or whatever it is, relationships or, you know, emotional stuff or whatever it is. But like on a macro level, I think like I was way out of balance for a long time, obviously. You've been way out of balance for a long time. But, you know, there'll be a point in time where it's afforded me a completely different balance at a really young age. It's like, I don't know, love for you to speak to someone who wants to achieve great things, but also has this sort of want to like enjoy life too.
So the first thing I'll say to that is, as ambitious people, Okay. If we're speaking to driven, ambitious people, whether they be 15 or 20 or 30 or 40, if you're an ambitious person and you look around at all the shit that's posted on the internet, you have to understand that those are the rules for everybody else. That's their rules. We have different rules. And when they look at balance, and this goes for everything, not just balance, different rules for different goals. Our goal is to achieve things and to become great at things and to build a certain outcome for our life. That's not everybody's goal. And in fact, people like you and I and other people like us, that's a very small percentage of people. So most of the shit that we read about balance or this or that or the other is written by people who have never done fucking anything. They've never achieved anything worth mentioning. That's why they're posting that shit on the internet all fucking day. That's the first thing to understand. Not all information applies to us. And it's very easy for us to become brainwashed by the pure numbers of things that we hear because they're made for everybody else. But when we think about balance, those people will typically think about balance as, okay, on a daily basis, like you said, a micro basis, right? I got to spend this many hours doing this many hours doing that. If I don't live my life like that, it's a failure because I'm out of balance. And that is not how I have found it to be in my life, nor have I found that in any people that have been what I would consider successful's lives. They all look at it like you look at it. It's a macro balance. And, unfortunately, most of us never get out of the realm of the work because it becomes who we are and what we love to do. And we get the fulfillment and enjoyment from the work more than I think we do the result. But that comes after just years and years and years of doing it.
It's like so many people do so many things they don't want to do.
Yeah.
They're friends with people they don't want to be friends with. They're married to someone they don't want to be married to. They do a job they don't love doing. They don't do almost anything really that they want to do. Do you believe that's true?
Yeah, I think it's courage. I think the reason most people don't win is because they lack courage, bro. I saw this during COVID. Most people that I know personally, and most people I saw knew that it was bullshit. And they knew that wearing a mask was not working. It wasn't real.
Nonsensical, idiotic. Yes.
Yes. But when they went in public, what do? They put the fucking mask on because they didn't have enough courage to say, hey, fuck you. I'm not putting that mask on. And by the way, the people who did do that were the people that I've seen be the most successful in life. So I got to thinking about it. I'm like, why are these people going along with something that they don't believe in? Well, it's courage, right? And then I noticed that all my successful friends that had courage to go out and build or do things were all like, nah, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit. And then I looked at everybody else and I'm like, well, fuck, dude, that's a big indicator in people's lives. They don't have the courage. And whether it's, the relationship or the career or like you said, they just go along doing things that they don't necessarily want to do because other people expect them to do it. And they lack the courage to step out of that framework that other people create. It's really, really sad, honestly. Because when I look at that and I see that, I think of like all the great innovations and all the great ideas and all the cures and all this great shit that ends up buried in the dirt 6 feet under because people don't lack the courage to like let it out.
I've wondered if a mass portion of the planet are NPCs.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I've dealt with all of that thinking. Sometimes I do look at life and I'm like, fuck, dude, we are in a simulation. Like this is
when you look at the track homes of that are all like the same as like Wisteria Lane or some it's like a computer game or something like that. You're like, how can anyone live? I would literally wither away and die. Like at the lack of inspiration, the lack of beauty, the lack of creativity, like lack of like aspiration. Like there's so many people that just accept right where they're at. So what are the characteristics? Because maybe we're all on a predestined path. Maybe there's really only meant to be 1% of real people in the world and the rest are NPCs and we're living in a simulation. Maybe that's the case. Maybe. But what are the characteristics of those 1%? If the people are listening, and if they're listening and they want to know, they have a chance, right?
Yeah.
They're probably, if they're not, if they're still listening, you've got a chance. If you're not listening, it doesn't even matter. So what are those characteristics that it takes to be part of that top 1%? The people that you're talking about that actually get shit done, accomplish great things, and inspire people.
I think it's awareness. I think awareness is the number one thing that people have to have. And when we look at like the people that you just described, you know, that like they live the regular life or whatever you want to call it. I don't necessarily think it's anything more than probably proximity to success. I would be willing to bet when you were younger, your parents and in your life, you saw success with your own eyes.
Oh yeah, my parents like spent their last $100 on a picnic table when they bought their house. It went all the way to being able to pay for me to live in Europe and like my dad bought a Pantera. That was his favorite car. And like,
yeah, dude, those are awesome, by the way.
Yeah. So like I always watched and I watched hard work translate to results.
Yeah, me too. And when I look at any successful person, they either had that from their parents or they were secondhand witnesses to it. Like they saw somebody, like their neighbor or a cousin or somebody they knew was successful. But most people don't have that. Most people never fucking know or see or touch real success. So how do you know it's possible if you've never seen it firsthand? That's a big leap of faith for people. And what I think most people reside themselves to is like, you know, that's the fairy tale and I don't live in the fairy tale. This is what people like me do. And if we never see things that are possible, we can't comprehend them for ourselves. So I think a lot of it is just for those people, it's proximity. But I think when we think about like, what are the characteristics? You know, I think it's very simple, man. I think the number one characteristic that successful people have is they have enough discipline in their lives to follow a plan. Sitting where I'm sitting now and knowing the path that I've been on, anybody could have done it if they'd done the same things. If they had taken the same actions and they had done the exact same things I did, they would have. It's not special to me. It's special to what I did. So it's inputs and outputs. And I like to talk about it like a recipe, right? Like anybody can be a great chef if they follow the fucking directions, right? If you're able to put the steak on for 2 minutes and then put it on for the other 2, like, you know, if you do it exactly as it says, it comes out. And so when we think about what the characteristics are, I think it's the discipline to follow a plan. It's the ability to adhere to a plan. And most people don't have it. And so we have to cultivate that and develop that into ourselves, into our character through intentionally making ourselves uncomfortable and then doing things anyway so that our discipline muscle gets strong. And then when our discipline muscle is strong, we have the capability to execute. And because I don't think it's that most people don't know exactly what to do. I think it's they're unable to do it. Like if you take most overweight people and you say, hey, how you lose weight, they're going to be able to tell you, you know what, I should eat less and I should move more.
Same formula has been for all of history.
Right. It's math. And I don't think it's any different when it comes to building a company or becoming a race car driver or anything. It's how much do you put in?
Yeah.
How much you get out? And, you know, I think it comes down to 2 things, man. Well, really 3 things. 1, the discipline to adhere to a plan that is laid out before you. I think 2, you have to be tough enough to not quit. All right. And 3, you have to be smart enough to learn from your mistakes the first time. You know, if you have those 3 things, I think it's very unlikely that you're not going to succeed. But people overcomplicate it. You know, they think it's luck or they think it's this or it's that. It's really simple, dude. Like work really fucking hard, follow the plan. When you fuck up, don't fuck up more than the same thing twice. And if you do fuck it up twice, try not to do it 3 times. And then become calloused enough to where no matter what, this is fucking happening. And I'm staying on this path. And you have to be truly committed and tough enough to persevere. So I think all of those things, I mean, my buddies who are pro athletes, my buddies who have built great businesses. I mean, everybody I know that's successful has those 3 things. And they might have a lot of different other things. Like
I mean, I think that those are 100% true. You will be successful in life. I don't think you'll be the most successful, because I think the first ingredient before it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, I think you have to have a dream.
Oh yeah.
Like you have to do something. You have to have an idea. You have to like pipe dream. You have to like think like, if I could do anything, what would I do? And you have to like imagine it, and you have to want it. And then you go put that formula together. That's the formula after that. But so many people don't dream. Do you know how many times I've sat and like done like a Q&A or done various different things? And I'm like, what would you do if you could do anything in your life? Anything at all? And you know how many adults don't have answers for that? Like kids have more answers than adults usually.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a lack of dream.
It's been beat out of the adults. It's been beat out of. Yeah, dude, when you're young, you know, when you're a kid, think about it. Our teachers, our parents, everybody says, you could be whatever you want. You know what? You could be president. Then you get into grade school and, you know, they still kind of say that. Then you get into junior high and they're like, oh, you want to be a fucking race car driver? What's wrong with you? And then you get into high school and you get thrown in the fucking locker for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like it constantly gets beat out of us over time. And, you know, it's unfortunate. I think you're right, by the way. Like you have to have a dream, but you know, most people lack. How can you have a dream if you don't think that you can achieve it? Like they don't have the proximity enough to see other people achieve anything. So how can they even, like, I think most people just can't comprehend what their true potential is 100%. For a number of reasons, you know? And we have this, there's a quote that I heard when I was very young. And it was funny. It was just out of a movie, but it stuck with me. There's a movie called The Edge. Have you ever seen The Edge with Anthony Hopkins? So the premise of the movie is they're successful executives and they go on this Alaskan adventure or whatever. Their plane crashes and there's 3 guys and one's a CEO and the other 2 are executives. And the 2 executives are freaking the fuck out. They're like, dude, we're going to die. And he's like, look, I know that we don't know what we're doing, but what one man can do, another can do. And that's what he said. And you know, they go on and he's the only one that lives and the other guys die. But that quote stuck with me, man. Like it's just, I believe that's true. I believe what one person can do, another can do.
Jesus said that. Jesus said that. He actually said, anything I can do, you can do even more. Like paraphrasing, but he said that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's true. And I think most people don't believe it's true. And I think that's, you know, for a number of different reasons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about like, if they haven't seen it, how can they do it? But the thing is there's plenty of things that have been done in the world. And actually the way that things move forward is that someone does it for the first time. It's a 4-minute mile. It's like, and then 20 more people ran it that year. Right. It's like they just have to enter the zeitgeist in people's psyche that it's actually possible. Mm-hmm. So so do you think that you come in born with the idea of something dormant in you that comes a lot, like that you're born with that drive to do that thing or that ability to think outside the box? Or do you think that can actually be cultivated?
I think it could definitely be cultivated, but I think some people are born to make it, to do certain things. I feel like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question because now we're getting into, past lives and things like that.
Yeah. I like to get into those places sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think it's real. I think those are real things. One time I ate 5 grams of mushrooms on accident. Yeah.
How many grams?
5.
Yeah, I've done that before.
On accident.
But I did it on purpose.
Or no, I'm sorry. It was an ounce of mushrooms. So it was like 20 grams. And that fucking, it was an accident because I mismeasured the mushroom. I always took the chocolate bar things.
Instead of 0.1, you went 1.0?
Yes. And it was like a pile like this big.
Holy shit.
It was a huge pile, like the size of a softball, but I didn't fucking know any better. So I
did the stoned ape theory thing.
Huh?
You heard
What's
the
that?
stoned ape theory? Is that
No.
the way civilization was moved forward? Is that the idea is that possibly like apes back in the day ate these like,
Bunch of mushrooms.
plate-sized magic mushrooms and it expanded their mind and sort of
Well,
evolved humanity quicker?
I definitely went somewhere else. That was for sure.
Tell me what you
Uh,
saw.
I saw a number of things. I had a bunch of different, I had like five different visions. And so at the time, I was having like a lot of frustration and anxiety in my life. I really couldn't tell you why. It was almost like some sort of midlife crisis. Like
Hmm.
I lost my confidence. I wasn't feeling good. At that time, I was becoming more reclusive. I didn't want to be on the internet. I just kind of like was pulling away. It showed me in a river, and this river was flowing, and then it showed like these big rocks. Okay. But it showed me swimming up the river, trying to not hit the rocks.
Hmm.
And then it showed me, like right after that, that if I swam with the river, I could avoid the rocks anyway. It was easier. And so what I took from that, and like on those mushroom trips, anybody who's ever done it, they know it's not like it's downloaded into you. It's an understanding.
It's a
It's not
knowing.
like you don't have to be convinced of it. It's like telling
Right.
you something. And what
No.
it was telling me was that if I would stop resisting, it would be much easier. And I did, and it got way easier.
You got reprogrammed a little.
Yeah. And then like it showed me uh, dude, this was really weird, but it showed me like this big plate of people. Like imagine a big plate with a pole driven through the middle. And it was a freestanding structure like this. Okay. So there's a big plate, then there's a littler plate, then there's a tiny plate, and then underneath there's a plate that's not as big as the big one, but it's still pretty big.
Hmm.
And what it showed me was that it was like a scale of awareness. All right. And it showed me like most people live on this big plate and they're very unaware. And then it showed me the plate underneath, which was all evil people. It was all these people were bad. And then it showed a smaller plate above the big plate, which is people that had like some awareness. And then the little plate was like enlightened people. And then it kind of gave me examples in real life of people I knew that fit in each one of these things. So that was interesting. And then after that, it showed me these two silhouettes of people. And if you imagine like a silhouette, like, you go into the bathroom and there's a silhouette of a man, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So there's a man and a man, and each one of them has half of them. The bottom half was black and the top half was white. The bottom on both. And then it showed the levels going up and down. What it showed was once a human is completely engulfed with the black, which was evil, they couldn't come back. So they were bad. And like what it actually showed me is that, like, I don't even want to say what it showed me, but it was that those people need to be disposed of to have a civilized society. So it showed me all the people I had known that are now dead. And there was like this curtain, but it was clear and you could kind of see through it, but not really. And like I stepped through it and I could see all of the people who I've known over my life that have passed away, but I couldn't see their faces. They were like these little football shaped lights and they were communicating with me, but not verbally. They were just talking to me in my mind and
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and forth.
It's telepathy.
So right before my grandpa died, he called me when I was 17 and they lived like 4 hours away. And he was like, hey, I need you to come see me. I haven't seen you in a while. And I was like, yeah, I'll come see you. And like literally a week later, he was dead. And it was unexpected. So like, I always beat myself up over that. Like, I was like, fuck, dude. Like, he was telling me he knew he was sick or he knew he was going to die. And he was saying, hey, man, come see me without telling me. And one of the things in that trip was he was telling me like, that he understood and that he forgave me and it wasn't a big deal and everything was good. And he was proud of everything I did. And I just thought, that was, and it was so real that like I haven't even thought about it since then. You know what I mean? Like I haven't felt any of
Oh,
that.
wow. Like it was neutralized.
Yes. So it was interesting, and that really made me think for sure that there is a multiple lifetimes. So getting back to the question, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if people are born to do certain things. But I mean, like, dude, we see this evidence of like children, right? Like recalling all of this historical data that they would have
Yeah.
had no.
The
There's
telepathy
evidence
tapes
of
are very popular now. Telepathy
what's that?
tapes. I haven't listened to them, but the telepathy tapes is a very, very popular podcast now where it goes through and shows how kids are able to, get in touch with other people
Dude,
and places. And it's like it's undeniable,
yeah,
essentially.
there's kids that speak other languages that they've never learned. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you explain that?
Well,
So
our potential as humans, I really like, I'm one of those super weirdos. I'm weird anyway. I don't know if you got that impression yet, but I'm a little bit of a weirdo. But only weird in that I'm not like a fan of conventional thinking, and I'm a huge fan of questioning everything. And so,
yeah,
I think that there's actually enough potential as human beings that we could. I mean, if you actually believed you could fly, I think you could, but I can't get over that hurdle in my mind. But
yeah,
the thing about like plant medicine and all those things is like they really give you a glimpse into more, and they say that they're the things that like in one mushroom trip can change your has changed people's life forever one
yeah.
time, which is
Hmm.
why of course they don't want to legalize it. I'm on the board here in Arizona to try and get it legalized, and the Psychedelic Association, and it's just a wall.
Yeah.
Whether
I
it's
think a lot of that
popularity,
comes from
just
big pharma. They want to
yeah,
sell people antidepressants as opposed
yeah.
to natural
Oh
remedies.
yeah,
I never
yeah.
believed that, by the way. Like, I always looked at like when Rogan would talk about it, I'm like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Um, but I was having such bad anxiety at the time. One of my friends gave me like a little square of chocolate, and he knew that like I was like anti-drug.
Hmm.
And well, I mean, I smoke weed, but anti-other drug. And he gave me the chocolate. He's like, here, try this. And I didn't know what the fuck it was. And I ate it. And then we were doing outdoor cardio on 75 hard. And he was like, how do you feel? And I'm
Right.
like, I feel fucking good, dude. Like, he's like, how's your anxiety? I'm like, I don't have any. Yeah. Like, and so then I was like, oh. So then he gave me the rest of the chocolate bar, and I ordered some from my friend who made them. And then I ran out. And when I ran out, I knew a guy who grew them. I said, hey, Mr. Gardner, give me some of those mushrooms, right? I don't want to say his name, but he gave me
But
this.
you're looking at him now.
Yeah, no, it's not Chris. But he gave me like a bag of mushrooms. And so, when I weighed them out, I weighed out the wrong amount. And fuck, dude, I went all the way in. And it was
It's
cool. I haven't done it since because I feel like it
you've
really
got
did.
enough.
Yeah, it really did help me a
Isn't
lot.
it crazy how vivid the recall is for it?
Yeah.
Like the experience is so embodied.
Yeah.
It's that thing, like you said, it's like it's an isness. It's
Yeah.
like
Yes.
almost
An
like the I am that
understanding.
I am, right?
Right.
Like that's like the truth.
Yeah.
And every psychedelic experience I've had is like so vivid in memory. It's like years and years ago, and you just are like, I could recall it. I see it crystal clear.
Yeah.
It's one of those areas that I really hope expands. I think there's some serious power in those medicines, and maybe this will help create more 4-minute miles. Maybe break
Yeah.
people from the matrix. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, that's
For sure.
really what we're talking about. This whole
Yeah.
conversation is break from the fucking matrix.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Stop going with the flow with everything someone says. Stop believing everything you see on TV. Start having some dreams and imagination. Believe in yourself. If everyone were the 4-minute mile, humanity in this planet would elevate to a whole new frequency. For sure.
Totally agree. And I think it's unfortunate. Like, one of the biggest lies I think we're told by the Matrix, and I think there's two massive lies that have been perpetrated over time. And I think one of them is our capability to what humans are actually capable of. They do not want us to know what we're actually capable of. They tell us shit like, oh, well, the average human only uses 10% of their brain. Well, then what the fuck is the other 90% for? And I know for sure, that, let's say the law of attraction, quantum physics, the ability to materialize your life through your thoughts and focus is real. I have way too many examples of it because I actively participate in it now 100%. To where it's like I can now visualize. I have to be very careful what I think about, because if I think about bad things, those things happen too. Yep. And Joe Dispenza, right?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Joe well. Yeah. We're birthday buddies. We're both crazy Aries birthday people. I was trying to look up your birthday because I'm like, oh, are you an Aries?
Yeah. None of the information on the internet is correct about me.
It says that you were born in 1984.
Yeah. No.
September 29th, 1984. And I was like, oh, I love Libras. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not younger than me.
Yeah. No, I was born
a couple years older.
July 9th, 79 is my actual
Leo then maybe.
Yeah. Cancer.
Yeah.
But
oh gosh. Yeah, I know Joe. I love Joe. And that's so true. I mean, all you have to do from a simple perspective for people listening, all you have to do is know that you had an idea for a company and it became real.
Yeah.
I had an idea for a company, it became real. And that's literally like the simplest example of thoughts become things.
Yeah, they do. And I'm a big person of like science to back up these things. And if you really dig into quantum physics, you'll find that there's been experiments that have shown that this is actually real shit, but they don't want us to know those things. Mm-hmm. And so, what are we actually capable of? The answer is we don't know, but I bet they know. That's why I'm a big fan of like full disclosure, because if we all knew and we were all a bit able to create and we were taught we were able to create things with our mind, there would be no way for anybody to rule and capitalize on our presence. I don't know. The answer is I don't know if people are born to do things, but I do believe that we are being lied to about major things that we are capable of. And I think it's highly intentional, and I think it's for the purpose of control. And, hopefully people are waking up.
I think you have a very, you're a fellow high data processing speed person. I got that impression I was going to ask that at the very beginning of the conversation, and then it came around to it at the end when I was reminded. But, there's some people that just think really fast, and your processing speed is higher than the average person. And you are here to inspire people. You're here to create. You are here to break the matrix. You are here to lead by example. And, so if there's like someone sitting at home that's still watching this, that is like, they're sitting there thinking like, I have an idea. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure I have the confidence to do it. I don't know if I'm good enough to do it. I would love for you to just go off on a little pep rally speech here to finish us off about what you'd say to that person, girl, a guy, or anybody sitting there thinking like, I need some fucking motivation.
What one man can do, another can do for real. And it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your parents did. It doesn't matter who they were or what you've been told. The truth of the matter is we're dealing with math, okay? And if you decide that you want to do something and other people have already done it, they have cultivated a roadmap. You're going to have to put in, and there will be a result that comes out. And a lot of times you have to put in for a very long time before the result starts to sprout. And when we can just act as opposed to analyze, we get much further, because the reality of becoming or building or creating anything, including ourselves, that is built on faith. Okay. We have to have enough faith that will happen, that we are able to execute in the meantime without evidence that it will happen. So what I say is the work is always going to come before the belief. You're going to work. Something good is going to happen. And you're going to say, holy shit, something's happening. Then you're going to work. And then some more is going to happen. And there's not a single person on the earth who has ever achieved anything that this wasn't the process. There is a commitment to the blind faith that we can achieve whatever it is that we achieve, that you're going to have to buy into in order to do the work without the reward and the immediate reward, delayed gratification. Outside of that, I don't think that there is any limits to anybody. And I actually believe that the harder life that you come from, the easier it is to succeed. Most people that come, we have this thing in the world where, I come from the shitty part of town, so I can't do anything. Good, because you know what the fuck you're trying to get away from. You take someone who's born into wealth or born into comfort, they don't understand that. So you are a much more driven human being than they will ever be. And if you could commit to the idea that you can achieve whatever it is that you set out to do by doing the work, no matter what, there's really no limits to what you can achieve. And I believe that. I believe that every single person out there, I believe that we overcomplicate it. I believe that we compare ourselves in negative ways. Comparison sometimes is a great way to get better. When it comes down to it, it's just a misunderstanding of the process of success. And, a lot of people think that the path is linear and it's automatic. And really what it is, it's a bunch of peaks and valleys, right? We get some success, we lose a little bit. When we lose a little bit, we get another lesson and we get another tool into our belt, so to speak. We win a little bit more, then it goes down. We learn a bigger lesson. We add another tool. And eventually all this shit starts to click and you start to, scale, how they think it is from the beginning. Everything great that has been created, you drive down the street and you look at all the companies, you turn on the TV and you look at all the people you're watching. You see all these people that you admire. Those people are no different than you. They're just people who committed to that goal without having any evidence that it could potentially be real. And they committed to that work for long enough that it became real. And if one man can do that, another can do it. And I firmly believe that. I'm been alive enough years to have seen it happen over and over and over and over again. And I think it's just the way that it works. I don't think there are actual limits on what someone can achieve. I think there are limits on what someone is willing to pay for that achievement. But if you're willing to give whatever it takes for as long as it takes, there's really no limits to what you can become. And I think that's true for everybody.
Yeah. Well said. It was blind faith that got me to where I was. That's
Me
actually
too.
the words I used. I was like, I didn't even know what those words meant when I was a kid, but I was like, I was like, I have blind faith. Like I had no reason to believe it should happen for me. I just fucking for some reason I believed it was going to happen.
It's almost ignorance working in our favor, right? Like if I had known, like real talk, if I had known the path that it was going to actually take me to get where I'm at now, there's no fucking way I would have done it. There's no way. So it's almost like being ignorant to the fact of what it actually takes is a great thing, but you just have to execute as if it's going to be real, and then it becomes real.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love for you to say what you think, what a lot of people would say, I just want to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Like they just want to be happy. Like what is happiness really comprised of for those people out there? They're like, I want to be happy.
Yeah, I think.
What makes people happy?
Well, I don't think it's a destination. I think that's why most people aren't happy. They look at it as a destination that they're going to get to. If I do this, if I do that, when I do this, I'll be happy. And none of that shit's true. I actually think that being happy, at least for ambitious people, is comprised of 3 different elements. I think 1, you have to be disciplined. You have to be exercising discipline. If you do not control the things that you are in control of, you will always feel like you're swirling in the wind and I'm out of control and I'm at the mercy of circumstance. And sometimes we are, but it's much less when we're controlling things we can control, right? What we eat, what we consume, who we spend around, how we train, what information we put in our brains. Those things are controllable and those dictate the mass of our outcomes in life. So exercising discipline, having gratitude for where we are. Okay. I think it's important to say, hey, I am thankful for where I'm at, even if it's not where I want to be, because things could be a lot worse. And I am learning some really good things right now. And, take note of what you're grateful for. I have a great family. I've got some good dogs. I'm on the right path, and not just focus on all the things that you're not content with, which we tend to do as ambitious people. Mm-hmm. So, and then the third thing is you have to commit yourself to a purpose. I think if you're, if you don't have a bigger purpose than just, I want to be great, you're going to be very unfulfilled. And I think, fulfillment is a big part of happiness. So, discipline, gratitude, and purpose. Usually if I'm not happy and I find myself in a place where I'm frustrated or angry or unsatisfied, it's because I'm not I miss one of those three things. I'm missing one of them. And I think, when you understand that happiness is not the destination, but it is, a daily occurrence that you like to replicate within reason. And why I say within reason is because if we were happy all the time, it would just be the way it is. It wouldn't be happy. So we have to experience, the hard things to be happy. I just think ultimately, people just think about it wrong. They think that they're going to get to this destination called happiness, and that's not a place that I know exists. If tell me, but I don't fucking know.
It's like evidence. Happiness is evidence of doing those things.
Yeah, and just knowing that you did the right shit. Like, I'm doing the best I can for real.
Yeah.
Like, that's something to be proud of and happy with. Like, I mean, a lot of people have different ideas, but that seems to work for me. When I'm unhappy, I examine and break down where I'm missing on one of those three things. And when I get that in line, I feel better.
We didn't even talk about Heart 75. I mean, that's really where I came to know you. I was thinking at the beginning, maybe Heart 75 needs to include no digital or porn for the Heart 75.
A lot of people are adding things into there. Maybe we'll work on that for the next version.
It's already hard enough. Let's face it. Yeah. It's already hard enough. Well, thanks for being who you are and encouraging people to step into a greater version of themselves ultimately.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Thanks everybody for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.